I am joined by my very dear friend and colleague, somebody who's highly respected all over the globe for his deep geopolitical insight and insight into world affairs as they are progressing each and every day. This is not a usual day for us to be recording this broadcast that will be out very soon. But Pravin Sawhney has kindly agreed to join me because there are events taking place in West Asia that impact us, that impact everybody, because they are deeply connected to oil, deeply connected to fertilizer, deeply connected to helium, everything that we need every single day. So I have requested him. He's very kindly agreed. And he and I discussed what we are going to do. And it was his suggestion that I accept that I will provide to you and to him at the same time information that I feel is deeply sourced, deeply privileged, and something that you ought to know as our global audience. If you like what we do, kindly hit the like and subscribe button at this time. Become a paid member. We will deliver this high quality information inside your mailbox. Go to Substack, Transition Protocol, and you will receive this information. Well, the information that brings us here on a day that we usually don't meet is actually quite spectacular, and it comes on the context of the maximalist campaign or rhetoric or vociferations, as our other colleague Pepe Escobar likes to call it, from the toddler, and I will say malignant toddler in the White House. And the information that we provide to you is the following. Uh, this appears to be part of a James Bond movie or a novel, but it is actually true. In the last couple of days, to mend fences with Iran, UAE uh, head MBZ, as the world knows him, authorized the transfer of 2 tons, 2 metric tons of gold in an aircraft that is linked to the royal family to Tehran. Not only that, he approved the transfer of 3 billion United States dollars in cash. And this was delivered to Tehran. And the reason for that is that MBZ wants to mend relationships with Iran. MBZ does not want to be in a perpetual conflict with Iran. And to our understanding as analysts who have no extra grind, we believe that MBZ made the right decision because he had made all the wrong decisions until now. He linked up with Israel, he linked up with the United States, he linked up with India, none of whom have emerged as victors in this most recent conflict. That is one news. Other news. Uh, North Korea has, in the last week, transferred via China very advanced long range weaponry, missiles, long range, uh, to Iran. The shipment came via China. China added its own very significant portion of weaponry that got transferred to Iran, and this is weaponry having to do with electronic warfare that has performed extraordinarily well. The Beidou system that has become so precise that it targeted Mr. Trump, forcing him to exit Air Force One in a cart that has been seen all over the world. Uh, Not only that, Pakistani military technicians were dispatched to Tehran to assist with the immediate embedding of this technology, this weaponry, on which Pakistan is very well trained, with Tehran. Another piece of news. Each one of this will be very significant on its own right, but another very significant piece of news that our global audience will hear from us nowhere else. As we reported on this channel, uh, the Supreme Leader has taken command. The Supreme Leader has developed his own set of aides, and one of the most important ones is Mohsen Rezai, General Mohsen Rezai. That is number two now in Iran power structure. And Mohsen Rezai uh, made a decision that resolved the conflict, a big conflict growing between the IRGC leadership that was very much inclined to keep the war going because they are convinced, really, really convinced that Trump is in a corner. Trump has his back against the wall. He's on the back foot. Nothing works for him, and they want him out permanently. So that they did not want any negotiations taking place. On the other hand, President Pezeshkian, Galibaf, Speaker of the Parliament, and and Arakchi, who is well known to everybody as a foreign minister, they wanted to give negotiations a chance. Negotiations continue to proceed with Pakistan as a principal negotiator, broker, who has been playing a very important part in all of this. So things came to a head. They went to the supreme leader. Supreme leader said, Mohsen is my man. Let Mohsen make a decision. So Mohsen decided to give negotiations a little bit of chance. He did not want to end talks with Mr. Trump. That's very significant news. So we have another maybe a week, uh, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter for negotiations to proceed, and they are going via Islamabad. Iran and Pakistan have become extraordinarily close, very, very, very close. So close that within the next day or two, a very significant delegation, very powerful delegation of Mr. Galibaf, Arakchi are going to be visiting Islamabad. They'll be the head of a 21 member delegation, all important members of Iranian leadership, and they will be having talks with everybody that matters in Pakistan, civilian as well as military. We are informed that important decisions are going to be made, significant decisions are going to be made with respect to what needs to be done with the United States, what needs to happen with Iran's role vis a vis Pakistan, Islamabad, and Turkey. So this is something to watch very, very carefully. And we will be watching, we will be having our eyes inside the room, so to speak, and we will bring this to our audience so they get to know as soon as decisions get made. So this is the key parts of the information that we felt needed an extraordinarily competent, trusted voice like my dear friend and colleague Pravin Sawhney to interpret for our global audience.
Thank you, Zulfiqar, first of all, for having me on your show and putting so much of trust in me. And thank you also very much for sharing all this intelligence, which certainly is significant. Now, if you allow me, let's look first at the big picture and then we'll narrow down to all these issues that you have mentioned. So, the big picture still remains the same, that as far as the Iranians are concerned, their key objective is to get the American forces out of West Asia. And it is in this context that, alongside, the Iranians had been working on this joint defense agreement, which was signed on the 7th of August between three very important countries, which is Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey. So their objective has not changed at all. And Pakistan certainly is the most important member, both for West Asia peace as well as for taking the Iranian objective forward. There is no doubt about it. And this the Iranians have already acknowledged on the 17th of June when they called their MOU Islamabad MOU. Now, having said that, uh, let us see what is going on as far as Iran is concerned, both on the military side as well as the political side. So, if this is the overall objective, what I mentioned to get the American forces out of the region and to prepare a regional security architecture, then certainly for the Iranians still, diplomacy takes precedence over military power. I have no doubts about that. But what the Iranians have done is they have made a major reshuffle. Which and the other thing is the military reshuffle. And the other thing is that they have gone and announced that also. So both the things are extremely significant. And as you rightly pointed out, that now General Mohsin Rezai, he has become the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, an extremely important member. So why, in my assessment, they have done that, the Iranians, because and you can see the panic on the other side. Why I say there is panic on the other side is that recently in New York, at one of the rallies, President Trump actually went and announced that very soon I'll declare Strait of Hormuz as the American territory. You see, it's all bluster. It has no legal basis. As far as this Strait of Hormuz is concerned, two great powers in the multipolar world, China and Russia, they have backed Iran that this is the internal waterway uh, for international use. So there is no doubt about that, but this shows the amount of panic which is there. And panic is justified. Why his panic is justified is that now it is very clear that before he started the war, alongside the Israelis, the Americans never checked their war inventory. It's always a basic thing that you do two things before you start a war. Whether it is a limited war, whether it's a blitzkrieg, whether it is a war of attrition, whatever you are looking at, you do two basic things. One is the war appreciation, that was not done. Then the second is you check your war inventory. That doesn't mean you meet your objective. But the objective itself was very silly when you see from the American perspective, not from the Israel perspective, but I won't go that way. So these two things were not done, and the consequences of that are for everybody to see. Not only that, a very, in my opinion, a very disastrous thing for the US military is that the US CENTCOM commander, Admiral uh, Cooper, he seems to be publicly sort of saying or passing the messages that look, there is a need to fight. Now, this is the Israeli agenda. I mean, whatever his assessment is, he's supposed to give it to the chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and not provide leaks like this to say that, look, we need to fight in. And what this shows is that in any case, the CENTCOM commander is directly, he is integrated with the Israelis, which is a very unfortunate thing to happen at a time when the war is going on, and it is a very consequential war for the Americans. Now, as far as the Iranians are concerned, Iranians today have accomplished two things. One is, I'm talking of from the military point of view, and which is why they announced the reshuffle. They have done it and they have announced it. The two big thing is that they have achieved missile dominance and they have shortened the kill chain for the missile dominance. Now, when I say missile dominance, I'm talking about the missiles of the Iranians, which are hypersonic missiles. That means we are talking about Mach 5, perhaps Mach 10 speeds. We are talking about missiles which change the trajectory. We are talking about missiles which evade the air defense systems. This is what we are talking about, and this is where your information also fits in, that perhaps North Korea, but to my understanding, more than North Korea, plenty of things the Iranians can do themselves. Iranians are extremely intelligent people and they have the expertise and they have had the time, lot of time. So all these things they can do themselves, but what they could not do, and that is where the Chinese come in. That is the Chinese Beidou system that you alluded to. Now, Beidou system has two aspects. One is what is called the Beidou 3 satellite constellation. And the second one, which is extremely important for accuracy of missiles, is the Yagon augmentation satellite system. Now, this operates at the altitude of 900 to 1200 kilometers. And now, what the Chinese have is something very unique. These cannot be, the signals are very strong from this Yogon satellite system, and they cannot be, electronic warfare will not work of the Americans or the Israelis on it, and neither the cyber attacks. So, in other words, they are in a position to provide accuracy at long range to the Iranian missiles. So these are two big things. Now, coming to even the IRGC commanders, they have openly said that now we are shifting from defensive to offensive strategy. What offensive means is should be very obvious to the Americans, the US military, that their naval blockade is actually the big vulnerability. Because when you put a naval blockade, it's an act of war. It's only that the Iranians who are giving importance to diplomacy were not treating this as an act of war until now, but they have the capability, as I mentioned, the missile dominance. They have the capability to perhaps blow up, if they blow up one or two ships, big ships of the US Navy, which is doing the blockade. That is a big problem for the as far as the American Navy is concerned, and their prestige is concerned, that will go down, the global prestige. So, as far as the Iranians are concerned, today they cover the entire Mediterranean Sea. As far as the Indian Ocean is concerned, they actually cover till Digo Garcia, which is a distance of 4,000 kilometers from Iran. This is the missile cover that they have, missile and the drone cover. So once we understand this part as to how much they have the capability in the military field, something that the Americans do not have today, then the role of Islamabad becomes very obvious. Islamabad is the only country, Pakistan is the only country today which can reach out to President Trump and explain him all these things. Perhaps the Pakistan Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, will be able to do this, something that is Trump's own minion military commanders will not dare this tell the president. Certainly not Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is even trying to hide the big disaster that has happened on Abraham Lincoln. There have been suicide cases there. He's hiding that, he's giving his own explanations, which simply do not make sense at all, because when you have an aircraft carrier at sea for so long, so you see, then there are problems, there are food shortages, there are so many things. I don't want to go in the details of that. You have 5,000 people on board. There is a big problem, and that is a vulnerability also along with that. So it will be for left to Islamabad to basically reach out, and the Iranians are aware of this. This is the reason, as you rightly pointed out, that a big delegation, some 21 member delegation of the Iranians, including Kalibaf, including Arakchi, they will soon be visiting Islamabad for more in depth talks. The more in depth talks are about the regional security architecture. It is about that, it is about diplomacy, it is about putting sense in Trump's head that look, all this will not work. Your bluster does not, go beyond the shores of America. Nobody cares for it, and certainly not the Iranians. Iranians have won this war. This is clear to everybody. So, this is where overall the things stand. Now, as far as UAE is concerned, this is good news. This is good news. In fact, I can say two good news is one coming out of UAE and the other coming out of Saudi Arabia. The news from UAE is that they seem to be slowly realizing that all this, closeness with the Israelis, with the Americans signing the Abraham Accord, and they have done a lot of investments in Israel. There is no doubt about it. So they are realizing that the most important thing is that we have to make peace, we have to be part of peace and not be part of war. That they are realizing because the stakes are very high for them. This is a country which depends solely on the desalination water plants. This is a country where the food comes from outside. That green channel, food channel, that they have created the land corridor, which goes from Salala port of Oman. So it starts from there and then it comes here to UAE in Fujairah port. This is how the food is coming. They are aware of that. And they are aware of the investments which are there in artificial intelligence. They are aware of the fact of that demography, that the Emiratis are barely 1 million. 10 million are outsiders. If the food doesn't come, the water is not there, they'll all leave. Similarly, the Saudis also, they have understood the things very clearly. See, Saudi Arabia was trying to balance between America as well as be part of BRICS, be with China. That is what they were doing. If you recall that in November 2025, Prince Salman had made a high profile visit to the White House. And there he announced that the Saudis will do American investments of, in America, they'll do investment of $600 billion. And in fact, at that time, President Trump has said, make it $1 trillion. The Saudi investment to be done there. And as far as Trump is concerned, he understands money very well. So he understands what is at stake there. And this is the reason that another news came that recently the Saudis also, Prince Salman himself, he spoke with President Trump. And this is the reason for that, to tell President Trump that all your investments will go away, nothing will come. And in fact, at one time, there was even talk when he was at the White House, he was talking about buying the F 35s, which of course will not work out. But investment is a big thing as far as the Americans are concerned. So he is in a position to tell President Trump that stop all this bluster of yours that the Strait of Hormuz now is American territory. It doesn't make sense. So when you put all these things together, to me, it appears that the overall situation is certainly moving towards regional security architecture, and we have discussed this earlier. A centerpiece of that is the Joint Defense Agreement that was signed on August of 7th, and there is no doubt that not only during this crisis that we are talking about, beyond the crisis, the Pakistanis will have a major role to play, and the Iranians are wise people who are aware of all this. So this is the way I see the picture, Zulfikar.
Fantastic, fantastic summary, fantastic analysis, fantastic in-depth review for a global audience that extends all over the globe, translated in 14 languages. Praveen, I'm so grateful that you are here to do this. I forgot to mention that there was a second phone call, Praveen. I don't know if we made it clear or not. We reported on this channel maybe a week ago that there was a call from when there was this big, massive attack that's going to take place. Prince Salman called and said, "No, you're not going to do that." And he listened. He backed down. So just yesterday there was a call, Pervin. Just yesterday, call number two, and
I,
and in this call number two, from our information that we believe to be totally reliable, that's deeply sourced, is that Prince Salman said, "A, you're not going to use Prince Sultan Air Base to launch any kind of aggressive action on anybody, on anybody. B, you're not going to use our airspace to attack Iran, period." Very, very big things coming out of Saudi Arabia because until this time, Saudi Arabia was just a heel. I mean, whatever the U.S. wanted, Saudi Arabia did it. I mean, there was one time, even a long time ago, when they closed down their airspace. So this is fantastic news. I'm delighted about to hear all this news, and I'm hopeful that this results in the malignant toddler. I'm going to call him a malignant toddler in the White House to be retreating back to his sandbox and just staying there. Whether he does that or not, you and I can toss a coin and maybe decide it that way.
No, no, I agree, Zulfikar, entirely with you that Prince Salman, he would have told President Trump all the three things. Uh, you will not be allowed to use the Saudi bases, Saudi infrastructure, Saudi airspace. There's no doubt about that. And along with that, you see, as far as Trump is concerned, when he goes into this mood and start talking about this is my territory now, Strait of Hormuz, there are other pressures also on him. Some sort of a assessment would be coming to him from the joint chiefs of staff that look, even the Iranians have not showcased some of their capabilities specific to Hormuz, and those capabilities are the midget submarines. Now, these are the submarines that the Iranians got from North Korea, and I have no doubt that North Koreans would have given them the technology also. Then they are ideal to operate in the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf, and they can operate both the missiles as well as the torpedoes. And then the Iranians also have underwater drones which are silent, which cannot be detected by sonars. And then also, please remember, as far as Trump is concerned, his whole project of Golden Dome that he was trying to put through, and he
Yes,
had
yes.
asked for $1.5 trillion for that. So the key role in that was of the Space Force of America. And recently there is news that the Space Force commander he has said that I'm not expecting any funding coming. Where will the funding come? Because that money is being used here in this war, a war that America cannot win. It's simple as that. So all these things when you put together, but for me the most disappointing thing, let me tell you, when I see from a military perspective, is the communications that are coming out from US Central Command that we need to continue with operations, because that is what is called command breakdown. That means the command is not aligned at all with the chief of the staff's committee, the man who is responsible overall for the military. So these are very serious things. You see, when you put all those tidbits together, you realize that something big is happening. Not only the American empire, longevity is at stake. The dream of the neocons, which started in the 90s and they've been doing havoc across the world, in the name of humanitarian work, aid is required, or in the name of liberal democracy, that will also end. Something you see that started after the Vietnam War, that these neocons they became more and more strong, that will also end along with the American empire decline. So we are looking at very big thing, and the Americans losing the Ukraine war also. It is the American war there also by proxy. What is NATO? NATO is America, US military. There is a big problem. This man Zelensky, President Zelensky, is openly saying, "I'm just getting 1/10 of the missiles that were supposed to come to me, the Patriots." So he's also in big trouble. Don't know how long he can continue to the war there, and that will be the end of NATO. So Zulfikar, the point is that here this war, how this war goes, one key player in this is Pakistan. Should be no doubt about this at all, because it is the Pakistani top military leader who is the key person who can communicate directly with President Trump and can give him an independent opinion. That independent opinion Trump will not get from Pete Hegseth, who simply does not understand warfare. There should be no doubt about it. And certainly it will also not come from General Kane. General Kane knows things, but General Kane will follow the chain of command. He will not say anything contrary to Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of War. So there is a big problem, Zulfikar. That is where the
Well,
Americans are.
let me share with you something more troubling in that light, Parveen. And of course, your analysis is on point as always. Because I have some insight into what is going on between Pakistan and Iran leadership talks and all of that. Uh, Ghalibaf and General Rezai requested Asim Munir not I say not to talk to Trump at this point. I mean, during the negotiations that were taking place between Mohsen Rezai and civilian leadership and IRGC, and of course Asim Munir was part of all that. So he was one of the requests was that please don't talk to Trump. Uh, Let us see what we can accomplish at the diplomatic level first. Let us, talking to other people, such as JD Vance and his office and blah blah blah, because they all view Trump as completely and totally unreliable. That he says one thing and 5 minutes later, he's forgotten about it. So they wanted to first establish the ground rules among the people who would be carrying out, whatever deal that was made. So yes, you are right. Asim Munir can pick up the phone and call Trump. We know that, and vice versa. But right now, the talks are at what they explained to me was not even at the level of the ministers, such as a Pakistani foreign minister, Arakchi, on the Iran side, and Marco Rubio. No talks there. Talks are just not with clowns like JD, like Jared Kushner, thankfully, and Witkoff, but at the diplomatic channels to sort out the realities on the ground. And the expectation is that this will go up and they will impress upon Trump that you have lost this war, man. Just get the hell out of here before you are driven out of here. Now, with that reality, I'm giving you deeply sourced information on the ground. Praveen, you are an extraordinarily competent analyst. Where do you think this will end?
See, as far as this war is concerned, the only way to end this is for President Trump on the American and the American leadership to come and talk with the Iranians on the Iranian terms. And the Iranian terms they have been spelt out in the MOU, and now they have become very aggressive about certain things. And those certain things are lift the naval blockade, drop all sanctions on us, let us export our oil, our gas, our petrodollars, get your forces out of the region. Perhaps you can do it in a phased manner, because even this joint defense agreement, finally getting it going, more talks will be required here. Some details are there which we can perhaps talk another time. Plenty of things need to be fleshed out. So they will perhaps give the option to the Americans that in a phased way you get out of here, and then to get Israelis, which Trump cannot do, under control. So that is something that at some stage the Iranians and this joint defense agreement will have to take on. What I spoke about, collective deterrence, one aspect of it. And then they will also be talking about the war reparation. Here they can perhaps compromise. You see, but the frozen assets, and here what the point that you made earlier, that UAE has done some work, some 2 metric tons of gold have been sent, and 3 billion in cash. So you see, so if all the GCC countries they come together, then what happens is that the regional security framework, on the one hand, it goes according to a time frame, and on the other hand, what happens is that BRICS also gets solidified. Because please remember that both Saudi as well as UAE, They are full members of BRICS. So that also gets strengthened. So, which means what we are looking at is BRICS is a very important institution of the new world order, what we are talking about. So, that strengthening also then puts Islamabad, Pakistan, in a very good situation in the new world order. So all these things are there, Zulfikar. When you put them together, the picture becomes very clear that the Americans have no option but to come and start talking.
I have one additional clarification that I should have maybe made earlier. Perhaps I did in our last conversation. The Iranians are willing to compromise, I mean, not compromise, relax a bit on two of their 6 points. One, you just alluded to that, which was that, well, okay, we'll talk about reparations. We'll talk about this, but we can at least, you can begin to implement the rest, and we can begin to open up the Strait of Hormuz, blah blah blah. Iranians have also, I mean, this is my understanding and informed opinion based on what I've heard, that they have said, all right, sir, as far as Israel is concerned, we know that you are not the boss, they are the boss. So we will not demand that you tell somebody who is actually bossing over you to behave in a different way. We want you to simply not assist Israel after you leave here. We will deal with it. I mean, big thing, very big thing, Pravin. What do you make of that? I mean, I see that as Iran, launching some of its recently acquired long range missiles into Tel Aviv to devastating effect.
See, as far as Netanyahu is concerned, his own future is at stake, personally also. So I don't think that Netanyahu will stop the war. And as far as the Israelis are concerned, we have discussed this so many times, and so many analysts have spoken about it. Their hold on the US Congress is sufficiently strong. So, all these things, and which is the reason that even Brad Cooper, the Admiral Brad Cooper, he also is talking the IDF language, the Israeli language. So, these Zionists will have to be treated or taken care of separately. This is something which will happen after the Iran America issues are resolved, because Israel will take some time. In my assessment, it will not finish anytime soon, but that will be a sideshow. The key concern is to open the Strait of Hormuz for the world. This is the
Well,
key concern for America, and the key concern for them, Iranians, is that these guys go out of West Asia.
that is the assessment of Mohsen Rezai, as communicated to Asim Munir in just in the last couple of days. Don't worry about Israel. Our demand is that you don't assist them. This is what we want you to agree to, and we will deal with them. I'm quoting you the exact language, very, very privilegedly sourced. We will deal with them. They are so confident. So we have covered a lot of ground, and I really am deeply grateful to you, deeply honored that you accepted my request to show up at a time when you should be resting. Today is Saturday, and maybe Independence Day in India. It was Independence Day in Pakistan today. Well, obviously I'm here in the United States, but so I apologize for interfering with your Independence Day holiday and on Saturday, but this is so important. I lived through the Vietnam War. I was a young student, very much against the war and so forth. I mean, I saw all that, and now I see this, and I see this as more significant to the world. So that's the reason I was compelled to invite you and request that you analyze this for our audience. It will be seen by people all over the world, thousands and thousands of people, and in all languages. So, Parveen, thank you so much for taking the time to show up here and to do this wonderful analysis that you do. I will give you the last word before I close. I just request our Audience all over the world, if you like what we do, kindly subscribe, hit the like button, and become a paid member. Go to Substack, same name, Transition Protocol, very small fee. This $5 a month. We will deliver quality materials like this twice a week into your mailbox. So please do that if you like what we do. So go ahead, Praveen. Said the last word, please.
Yeah, so the concluding line has to be that President Trump talking about owning that this is American territory, Strait of Hormuz, is shows the extent of panic. The panic has set in because there is no strategic thinking at all going on. Nothing at all. It was all tactics, and the tactics has blown up. And Iran holds all the cards, and Iran can only work with Pakistan alongside. Pakistan has become extremely important, and the world is noticing all that. And the last thing is, Zulfikar, any time for you. So, not a big deal. If you send a message, I'll come on your show
You're
anytime.
so kind. You're so kind. I will just make one additional comment to what it is that you just said. I mean, in support of that, of course, Pepe Escobar, who is one of our founding members, traveled all over the globe, very highly respected as well. He was talking about exactly the same thing that you're talking about. No strategic plan. And somebody had asked him or us, "What is the plan B?" And he said, "There is no plan A." Forget about plan B. There was never a plan A. So we are
Yeah,
dealing with a situation, Parveen. There has never been a plan A.
yeah, that's correct. Absolutely right. Agree with you.
I'm just shocked. I'm absolutely shocked at how this has happened. I said this maybe on this show or some other show that we did, that I was invited to play a very significant role in the United States Armed Forces because of my background and so forth. And I spent 5 years at the base, Wright Patterson Air Force Base, and was a principal developer of the F-15 program, the by at that time the by far the most advanced program. And there was so much planning that we did, so much planning that we did, and here we see nothing. It
That's
is the
right.
decline of empire. Thank you, Praveen.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I remain deeply grateful to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Zulfikar. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Bye bye.